Did you know that this story of David and Goliath is one of the most famous stories ever told? So much so that we use phrases like Goliath complex to describe people who are big, bad, and scary. But why is this story still so popular today? What can we learn from it? And how can it help us when we face giant problems in our own lives? Well, let me tell you, my friend, there are more twists and turns to this tale than you might think. So let's unpack the epic battle between David and Goliath. Why David's victory still inspires us today. The story of David and Goliath is an epic showdown between good and evil. David, a young shepherd boy, takes on the fearsome giant Goliath, whose intimidating stature strikes terror into the hearts of the Israelites. But when David steps up to the plate, he faces not just a physical giant, but also a psychological and emotional one. For one thing, Goliath taunts David, calling him a small, insignificant creature who is out of his league. And then there's the added pressure of facing an opponent who is not only physically stronger, but is also heavily armed. To make matters worse, the whole nation is watching, and if David loses, they will be at the mercy of the Philistines. With all these obstacles in his way, it's hard to believe that David could win, yet he does. Why does David accept this seemingly impossible challenge? Well, because he doesn't back down from a fight. He's brave, he's confident, and he has faith in himself. He knows that he may be small, but he's agile and quick, and he has a slingshot and stones to defend himself. He may not have armor or a sword, but he's got brains and strategy on his side. And when push comes to shove, David's heart is in the right place. He wants to protect his people and his land, and he's willing to put everything on the line to do it. Now let's talk about Goliath. What makes him such a formidable opponent? Well, for starters, he's a literal giant. He towers over David, both in size and in strength. He's been trained in combat, and he's armed with a spear, a sword, and a shield. He's basically the epitome of everything that David is not. And yet David doesn't let this intimidate him. Instead, he stares down the giant, sizing him up, looking for weaknesses and vulnerabilities. He may be smaller than Goliath, but he's not intimidated by him. In fact, he's ready to take him on. So what happens when these two warriors finally clash? It's a battle for the ages, a fight between the underdog and the seemingly invincible. But in the end, it's David who comes out on top. He uses his slingshot to fire a stone at Goliath's forehead, and the giant collapses to the ground, defeated. And that, my friends, is a major upset. It's the ultimate victory of the little guy. But here's the thing. This story isn't just about a physical battle. It's also a metaphor for the challenges we all face in life. We all have giants to fight, whether they be personal, professional, or even emotional. Sometimes these giants are things like fear or doubt, while other times they might be actual people who try to hold us back. The point is that we all have struggles that seem overwhelming at times, and that's where the story of David and Goliath can inspire us. It reminds us that no matter how big or scary our problems may seem, we can overcome them if we have the courage to face them head on. When faced with a giant problem, it's easy to feel scared, overwhelmed, and powerless. That's exactly how the Israelites felt when they saw Goliath taunting them every day. But David didn't let those feelings consume him. Instead, he took a deep breath, focused on the task at hand, and came up with a plan. He may not have had all the resources or support he needed, but he made do with what he had and came out on top. Another important lesson we can learn from David's victory is that sometimes the greatest strength comes from unexpected sources. David was just a young shepherd boy, but he had the heart of a warrior and the determination to win. He wasn't afraid to go up against the biggest, baddest guy around, and he did it without any fancy weapons or armor. All he had was his wits and his courage, and that was enough. This teaches us that we shouldn't underestimate the power of the human spirit. Sometimes the smallest and weakest among us can accomplish the greatest feats if they have the will to try. Moreover, David's victory over Goliath was not just a physical triumph. It was also a psychological one. You see, Goliath had been taunting the Israelites for 40 days, and his insults had taken a toll on their morale. They were afraid of him, and their fear was making them weaker. But David didn't let that fear get to him. He was confident in his abilities, and that confidence gave him the edge he needed to win. This teaches us that our mental game is just as important as our physical prowess. If we can keep our cool and focus on the task at hand, we're more likely to succeed. Moreover, David's victory over Goliath was not just a personal triumph. It was a victory for the entire nation of Israel. When he slew the giant, he became a hero to his people, and they looked to him as their savior. This teaches us that our actions can have a ripple effect, and that one person's success can inspire and uplift others. When we achieve something great, we don't just do it for ourselves, but for everyone around us. David's victory over Goliath also teaches us that we should never give up in the face of adversity. No matter how difficult the situation may seem, we should keep trying and never lose hope. As long as we believe in ourselves and our abilities, we can overcome any obstacle. However, it's also important to note that David didn't win the battle without help. Even though he was the one who faced Goliath, he wouldn't have been able to do it without the support of his friends and family. His brother brought him food and water, and King Saul equipped him with armor and weapons. This teaches us that we shouldn't be afraid to ask for help when we need it. Sometimes we can't do everything on our own, and we need to rely on the support of others to get the job done. Asking for help isn't a sign of weakness, but a sign of strength and wisdom. In conclusion, the story of David and Goliath is more than just a tale of good versus evil. It's a story of courage, determination, faith, and the triumph of the human spirit. It teaches us that no matter how big or scary our problems may seem, we can overcome them if we have the courage to face them head on. It shows us that sometimes the greatest strength comes from unexpected sources, and that our mental game is just as important as our physical prowess. Moreover, it reminds us that our actions can have a ripple effect, and that one person's success can inspire and uplift others. Finally, it teaches us that we should never give up in the face of adversity, and that we shouldn't be afraid to ask for help when we need it. So the next time you face a giant problem in your life, remember the story of David and Goliath. Take a deep breath, focus on the task at hand, and come up with a plan. Believe in yourself and your abilities, and never lose hope. And when you do, ask for help from your friends and family. Who knows? You might just surprise yourself with what you're capable of. If you enjoyed this video and want to hear more stories like this, please subscribe to our channel. And if you'd like to read the full story of David and Goliath, check out the link in the description below. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.